right, pinion shaft has been measured. It's been sent off to the machine shop that's effectively next door. Looks like it needs to have 2 millimeters taken off the end lengthwise, and then 1 millimeter diameter removed in order to accept the Mark IV bearing and fit into the Mark IV case. So that will be back to me tomorrow morning. In the meantime, I have plenty of other work to be doing. I can be cleaning all these individual parts, run them through the parts washer. I also have the differential, which I can retrieve the ring gear off of. I got to drill out all of these rivets and press the ring gear off of the differential so I can install my limited slip. If you were just doing this and wanted to keep the original differential, I would still recommend removing the diff bearings that are on here originally. I mean, you're going to have to remove the one anyway. So this one would have to come off in order to install this plastic gear for your speedometer. So I might actually just take this off as it is right now, test fit the ring gear, or the speedo gear, excuse me, and make sure that it looks like it fits exactly the way it's supposed to on the Mark IV. Just so, you know, if somebody else is attempting this, they can know for sure that yes, you can in fact use the stock differential if you don't want to spend the extra money to do this swap and also get a limited slip differential. So let me get a couple things taken care of here. Disassembling my selectors. These are all going to go into the parts washer individually. Going to get all the surfaces cleaned off. And then also all the gears are going to go with it. So let me just get these out of the way. Put them in my bucket here so I can haul these over to the parts washer a little later. I'll actually probably wait until I have my ring gear extracted to actually clean them all, just so they can all go together. And actually I'll be extracting the bearings off of the input shaft as well. That will be one of my next steps as well. So let's at least just make room, get these off the table. I'll leave my synchros here for now. I'll also take the reverse gear related stuff, throw those in there, including that guy. So you might have noticed that I have this habit of installing a bolt into the end of the differential. I do this for a couple reasons. A, it allows me to remove and reinstall the differential into the housing without grabbing onto the bearing and potentially deforming the cage that's there. But two, it's also keeping these spider gears from wanting to roll out. So without this in here, it's very easy for these spider gears just to roll over and they could potentially just fall out altogether like that. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. Fortunately, it's not super difficult to get them put back in there, but it can be a little tricky to make sure you get it back in the exact same spot so they're lined up simultaneously, which I did not do. That's a little off still. Let's try that again. Nope. And then you're also trying to keep this tab in place at the same time. All right, I think that's more like it. It is something you may also want to keep an eye on if you are taking apart any transmissions in this family, or most any Volkswagen transmission, I would assume. There is this plastic shim that goes all the way around these spider gears. So I have seen these shims completely break before, and then you have a whole lot of slack between the spider gears, and I've seen the spider gears get completely wiped out because that plastic shim that's back there completely broke apart into pieces in some cases. It doesn't happen super often, but in order to replace it, you would have to remove this roll pin, and then you can extract this main shaft that these two spider gears rotate on. Then once you do that, you can have the space to pull out that plastic shim and then replace it with a new one if you need to. Actually, I have a couple new ones up here. That's a used one. There's a A couple of brand new ones. That's what they look like out of the transmission case. So the spider gears will just sit in here. And yeah, I've seen them where, you know, one whole piece might be missing, or two pieces are gone completely and only like two remain or something along those lines. That sort of thing does happen. The other thing is, once in a great while, you will see this roll pin can actually back out slowly, and then when it does that, it's no longer in the little pilot hole that it has way down here, and all the force is being taken up only in this space by the roll pin. And then eventually, especially if you're driving it hard, it'll shear, and then as this whole assembly is spinning in the transmission, centrifugal force, this pin will start coming out, and then pokes a giant hole in the differential case, or in the bell housing. So that's actually one of the things that a limited slip is going to address, because it doesn't have anything like this. It's a completely different gear setup. It's all contained internally. There's no possibility it's going to completely fly apart like these can if that roll pin shears. So with that being said, I'm going to at least extract this bearing first. This thing's tight. Nah. Leftover pinion bearing. Get out of here. And just make real sure that the 02S does in fact still accept the Mark IV speedo gear, which I'm fairly certain it will. Actually, I need to use my other one. I only have the adapters that fit this guy. It's a little easier when I don't have to worry about also getting on top of the speedo gear. I just need to get under the bearing itself. That's kind of cool. Anyway. And now I need to grab a couple of press pieces that will sit on the end of the differential, but are also still small enough that the outer or the inner diameter of the inner race on the bearing will clear this adapter. I of course have some goofy special Volkswagen stuff. But realistically, if you kind of understand the basic principle you're working with there, you can find some other alternative adapter piece, so long as the bottom of your adapter hits this diameter here on the differential, but is small enough to allow this inner diameter of the bearing to slide over the top of it. That's the main thing. And this is actually just an adapter out of a ball joint press kit, just so I can have something to press against. So there is our differential bearing. Made in Ukraine. Well, that's cool. I should also compare this with the bearing I'm going to be using. It kind of looks like the angle of the rollers, this tapered roller bearing. They're maybe a little less severe, though it's slightly more upright maybe than the Mark IV bearing is. Volkswagen does use a lighter preload recommendation on these later differentials. But I'm going to be using the older style bearings, so I'm going to be using the higher preload. Oh, it does not fit. Look at that. It's like they didn't machine down this far enough to accept the old speedo gear. So that is an interesting thing to note. You'd have to mill down I don't know how much, but you have to shave off some extra here to actually fit the speedo gear. Interesting. So that I did not expect, but it's good to know. But for me, it's not going to matter anyway because I'm putting in a whole different differential. So next up, start drilling the rivets out. And you might laugh at this. I don't really have the space for a real drill press, if you have noticed. There's a photo booth over here. There's a table of random crap that's not even mine over here. Then I take up all this wall with random transmission stuff. And this half is mine. The other half, I got nothing to do with. I don't really have the space for a mill in here or a drill press. But I do have a press and I have a drill. That's kind of like a drill press, right? Set these up. Now, what is kind of a little bit of a shame, these don't have little divots already in the middle of these rivets. On the Mark IV, they already have like a kind of little divot in the middle, which works great as kind of a pilot hole to start drilling. I mean, like, I don't even bother starting with the small size. I just go straight to the big size and go. But yeah, these are, they keep on changing stuff to make it that little bit more difficult on you, don't they? Anyway. Just get a little bit of oil on there, just to make it go a little easier and keep the drill bit at least a little cool. All right. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I've actually kind of wedged the differential in between these plates, and I can kind of smack down on this a little bit to really keep it firmly in place so it doesn't go anywhere. Don't hammer on it though, I don't want to break the teeth. But it works. It's a little janky, but it works. I'm making a mess now. Okay. Let me ask you a question. If you have a stupid idea but it works, is it really a stupid idea? Hear that high-pitched squeal? It's usually because you're starting to hit the actual much harder ring gear. And that's my cue to stop and move on to the next one. You're not drilling all the way through, just drilling enough to make it easy for my air chisel to knock the heads off, then I can knock the rest of the rivet out easier. All right. Plug the compressor back in. Oh, still got pressure. Cool. Okay. Okay. All right. Now time to knock the heads off these rivets. What did I say about those spider gears coming out easy? Let's just get them off altogether. Look out. Okay. All right. Okay. Rivets extracted. Time to get the ring gear off the differential. Okay. Just trying to make sure I get these plates only on the ring gear, not on the differential. And then, let's see, place that guy right on there. Can actually go up a peg as well. Let's just do that. That might make this a little faster. There we go. Okay. Should be good. There we go. Ring gear extracted. Voila. So I think next thing I'll do, I'll extract my bearings from the input shaft, and then take all these guts. Actually, I won't take the 5th and 6th gear stuff yet. I'll do that later, but I'll take everything that's deeper internal than that to the parts washer. And then once that's done, I take my ring gear, press it onto the wave track, bolt it on, and that'll probably call it a day there while I'm waiting for the pinion shaft to come back. All right. Looks like I got that guy. Yeah, we got that lined up. Cool. All right, let's do that next. Now, after learning my lesson from yesterday, that's a plastic cage and that's a plastic cage. So how about let's not try and pull directly underneath the cages this time. And let's actually just rip them out. Original 02J versions did have metal cages on all of these bearings. So this washer is going to mess with me. There we go. And do the same here. Let's not have any more bearing explosions in my face. Okay. course, in this one, I could have just put my splitter underneath fourth gear and pulled all of this off, the sleeve washer and that bearing all together. Wouldn't have really had to worry about it too much, but too late for that. We're just going to try it this way anyway for the hell of it. As a last resort, I can still do that if this doesn't work out. Okay. Let's see what we got here. This might actually be too long where I have a press set currently. I can go up one and just not use it at all. Viable. Alright, let's just oh, it popped off. Scuffed the end of the bearing. And I think we slightly tweaked that washer. That's not too bad though. Well, I guess we will be doing this one from underneath fourth gear. Now I know, just start there on this particular transmission with a plastic pinion and you don't have to fight it. All right? Or at least won't have to do it twice. Actually, since this has a taper on it, I can make this tight enough to where the tool is not even going to touch the teeth in the gear, so that's kind of nice. Oh, I'll probably have to go back down. Yep. All right. Let's see. You know what? I think I'm going to go down one more. And I can use this. And same for the other side. This is tight. There we go. Trash. We can actually put our fourth gear back on, although I'll do that after I extract the bearing here. I think there might actually be enough of a chamfer to the teeth on first gear here to still get underneath the very bottom of the small pinion bearing, so let's try that. Or not pinion bearing, input shaft bearing. What am I saying? Not enough sleep last night. Okay. Perfect. And I am going to go ahead, put fourth gear back on before I take all this to the parts washer. So let's put this down one more notch. And I got to figure out what size of these can I use. Is that going to be long enough? That might be a little short by itself. Do that. That looks long enough by itself. Let's do this out of the way. And let's see what happened to... Oh, you bastard. Slipped right out of my hands. Everything looks like it survived okay. Oop. Yeah, minor ding on my fourth gear. Still gonna send it. So I had the top piece for that guy right there. Something like this, it'll be fine. There we go, fourth gear back on. Go ahead and pop it in with the rest of my parts to get washed. I'm gonna send the synchros with it too, but I usually leave the middle pieces out just because they can just they're polished, you know, they can just wipe them off and they're fine. And I kind of run out of space anyway, but it's always good to get these guys really nicely cleaned up. So we'll do that. Take our ring gear too. I might even just take that whole diff just to get it clean as well and put it on the shelf. So I'll take all this to the parts washer, and after that's done, I will start putting the ring gear onto my differential, and then that's about it. I just call it a day there.